Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a headband, and it's going to be two different styles. It's going to be either a 1940s style, so if you want to turn it into a sort of 1940s style headband, or it can just be a plain ribbed headband, but I'm actually going to be designing this as we go along in the video, and I'm going to be using this chunky bulky weight yarn, not to be confused with extra chunky extra bulky, so you're looking for a yarn weight of 5, and I've chosen this purpley colour. I'm going to be using a 5mm H hook, and it's always a good idea, like I always say, to have a pair of scissors and a yarn needle as well. First thing we're going to do is we're going to work some double crochet foundation stitches so we can avoid the chain, because I think if you put a chain into a headband it can create quite a tight, uncomfortable edge. So I find the double crochet foundation stitch a bit softer. Now this pattern is in US terminology, as are all my patterns. So the first thing we're going to do is, taking our yarn, we're going to chain 2 to begin. Just chain 2. 1 and 2. So just chain 2. Now to do the double crochet foundation stitch, I've done a video in more detail on this technique, but I'll go pretty slow anyway. But if you want to skip ahead, if you're used to doing the double crochet foundation stitch, then double crochet 60 foundation stitches. Okay. So what we do is we yarn over, and we put our hook into our first chain, and I just catch that top bit of yarn there, and we pull our yarn through like so, and then what we do is we do our chain, technically our chain, and that's, we just pull through the first loop. That creates what would have been our chain. That leaves us with 3 loops, and we do a double crochet as normal. Pull through 2, pull through 2. And because we did that sort of chain 1 at the beginning, we've now got a stitch on the left hand side here. So we're going to yarn over, and to do our next one we're going to put our hook into that chain we created. And what I do is I put my hook up through that first bit of yarn and move it over to find the second bit. So you should be catching 2 bits of yarn in that stitch, and then we pull our yarn through. Keep it quite loose, you don't want it too tight. Then we do our little chain 1 again, so we just pull through the first loop. That creates our next stitch we're going to work into. And then we do our double crochet as normal. Pull through 2, pull through 2. And as you can see on this side now, we've got another stitch. There's one bit, there's another bit. So we yarn over, we find that stitch on the left hand side. What I do is I put my hook through that first little loop, move it over, find the second bit, so there we go, and pull our yarn through. As you can see, it creates the chaining effect of just doing normal chains. So then we pull through the first loop to create our chain, always remember to do that, and then yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2 to do a double crochet. Again, you want to do 60 of these, so we're not going to count our first 2 chains as a stitch, we're going to ignore those. So that would be our first stitch, 2, 3. So you've technically done 3 so far. So the next one we yarn over, now you've got another stitch on the side here. There we go, so we just want to put our hook into there, the first bit, and find the second bit, and pull your yarn through there. Then make sure you do your little chain 1 stitch and then do your double crochet as normal. Okay, like I said, I've done a video in more detail that's slower, so I'll put a link to that in the description below if you're new to it. But you want to do 60 of these for an average woman's head size anyway. What I recommend is, if you want to make this smaller or bigger, what I recommend is do a few foundation stitches to begin, then wrap it round from the back of your head and then just coming over the ears, and you want to pull it tight, so you don't want to measure it perfectly flat like that. You want to measure it make sure it then joins around the forehead stretched like that, because you want a bit of stretch in your headband, otherwise it's going to be quite loose. So I'll show you what I mean on a mannequin after. But in the meantime, I'm going to crochet 60 of these double crochet foundation stitches. Okay, so I've chained my 60 double crochet foundation stitches here, as you can see. And what I want to show you is what I mean for measuring. So if you want to make it bigger or smaller, is I start measuring from the back here of the head and then put it over the top of the ears, and then coming around to the front. What you want to, as you can see here, just keeping it loose, if you can see on this video, keeping it loose, it doesn't actually meet, just keeping it just normal without stretching it. It doesn't meet at the front, but that's what we want. What we want is to be able to stretch it to meet, and then that will create the elasticity, if I can say that word, that we want for the headband. So that's what you want to be looking for when measuring your headband. Okay, so I've chained my 60 double crochet foundation stitches, and what we want to do now is making sure your yarn is at the top this way. So you want to find the beginning, so making sure your yarn doesn't twist, it's all facing the same direction, like it's flat and not getting twisted like this. You want to make sure that it lines up perfectly. You want to find your first double crochet stitch, and like I said, ignore your chain 2. You just want to go into that first obvious stitch that you've got. Make sure, like I said, it's the right side, you haven't twisted it. And then making sure your yarn is this side, we want to just work a slip stitch. So I'm going to bring that yarn through that first stitch, through the loop on my hook, like so. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're just going to work some double crochet front post stitches, yeah, and a mental block then, some double crochet front post stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over, and my little trick, what I do is I ignore the first, these chains here, and I do my first double crochet front post stitch around this double crochet here. And to do a double crochet front post stitch, we just making sure to go behind the stitch, go into that first gap, then go literally behind the stitch. So ignore the stitches at the top, you're going through, working through these gaps. So then bring the hook behind and out the other side, then pull the yarn through behind your double crochet, then just do a double crochet as normal. So I've done a video in more detail on the double crochet front post stitch as well. So the next one, we yarn over and then we go into the same gap we just came out of, but then we go behind the next double crochet and out for the next hole. Grab the yarn, bring it behind your double crochet and then do a double crochet as normal. And we just repeat that all the way around. So yarn over into the gap we just came out of, then behind the next one and out the other side. Pull the yarn around the back and do a double crochet to the next gap, behind, so the next gap, behind. Okay, so you're not working into these stitches at the top, these gaps here. You're not working into those, you're literally working into the big spaces in the middle, these ones here. And you just go in, yarn over, remember to yarn over, go in the one you came out of, then go behind and come out the next one. Then pull the yarn through and do a double crochet. Next one, go in the space you came out of, behind, out the next gap, pull the yarn behind, then do a double crochet as normal. Okay, so you just want to, you can see there you've created your ribbing effect. So you want to repeat that all the way back round to the beginning, then I'll show you what to do at the end. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the end, doing 59. And on the last one here, what we want to do is we actually want to join that last double crochet in those chain twos together because we want to keep a stitch count of 60. So we're going to yarn over, we're going to go behind the one we just came out of, behind that last one there, but we're going to grab our chain 2, so you've technically got 2 stitches there, and we're going to bring the yarn behind that one and do our double crochet as normal. That also joins your headband together a bit more. Okay, so you should still have a stitch count of 60, and as you can see it's got a nice stretchiness to it. And we just do another round of double crochet front post stitches just to continue the ribbing, and I work in the round, so I don't chain at the beginning or anything like that. I literally just go round the next double crochet, which is going to be this one here. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure to go for the right gaps, so you should be able to feel your way behind the double crochet. You stick to the top, so making sure not to go into these stitches, you just want to just place your hook in the middle of that top bit of yarn there, if that makes sense, and just pop your hook behind, as simple as that, and then do your double crochet. And it's the same all the way across, because it gets a little bit easier to see the holes now than it does at the beginning. So making sure to go into not the stitch, but just underneath that stitch you'll find your gap, go behind there, then behind your double crochet. You should naturally come out the other side and continue that round. So just make sure that you're front post stitching around the right part, so you're continuing up and not going over the same double crochet. Okay, so next one. So you can see your stitch quite clearly there. Underneath that is the gap you want to put, not there, but there, and then out the other side. Okay, so just continue round doing your double crochet front post stitches, and basically just keep working in the round. So when you get back to the beginning, you'll end on this one here, which we did those two together. See that one there? No, this one here. You just continue around the next one, the next one, next one, the same, around and around and around and around until you've got the desired length that you want of headbands. You might want a narrow one, you might want a really wide one, so you just continue round. So I'm going to just continue round, and then when I'm happy with the length I shall come back and tell you how many rounds that I did. So this is going to be our third round, isn't it? Because we did double crochet foundation stitches will be our first, and then we did a round of front post stitches. This is my third round. Okay. So I should do that and then I shall come back. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the last couple of front post stitches. And the last one, we've been working in the round, we haven't been joining our rounds. So to make sure you finish on the right one, you just need to line it up the bottom. Let's just finish this. There we go. So you can see there was the join. We did those two together. So just follow it up. And there we go. So I've done 8 rows all in totals from the very, very beginning. From the very beginning, we did our double crochet foundation stitches. That was our first row. So all in all, I've done 8 rows. But you can make it as thick or as thin as you like. But just to finish off, because we've been working double crochets, I'm going to actually go into the proper stitch now, into that proper stitch, and do a half double crochet, and then in the last stitch I'll do a little single crochet, the last stitch in the next stitch, that was the last stitch, and in the next stitch I'm just going to do a slip stitch. And what that does, it just lowers the stitches down so it's a bit neater, and then I'm going to cut my yarn and pull through. So there's my main finished headband. Really simple. You may just want to keep it like that and put a really big flower on the side or some buttons or something, whatever you fancy. And you can see, so there we go. This is my this is Hilda, my mannequin head. There we go. So let's put this on her. She's actually got a smaller than average head size, but you can see the style of stitching makes it stretch. So it stretches nicely over the head, like so. There we go. So what I'm going to do now though is I'm going to add an extra bit where I'm going to bunch that in to sort of make it look a little bit more 1940s wartime style. So let's bring you back down. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to use some leftover yarn, the same yarn. We're just going to crochet some more, let's get my hook, some more double crochet foundation stitches. So I'm not sure how many I'm going to need yet. So let's see. So we do the same again, we chain 2. And then we do a double crochet, well, we put our hook into that first chain and pull through. Then we need to do our little chain 1 at the beginning, and then we do our double crochet. So I'm just going to do some more of these double crochet foundation stitches, working into that stitch we just created, remembering to do our chain 1 and then our double crochet. The next one. So that's 3. 4. So how many do I think I shall need? So I think I want it about 4 stitches. I think about 4 stitches. 4 double crochets in height. We'll ignore our chain 2 at the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we do 4 for one side. So we double up and do 8. So crochet 8 double crochet foundation stitches. So this is for the other side. You'll see what I mean in a bit. 5, 6, 7 and 8. Okay, so you should have worked 8 double crochet foundation stitches, not including your 2 chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1. We're not going to count that as a stitch. It's going to be a turning stitch. Then we're going to turn, then work into these stitches. So we're going to go straight into that first stitch and do a double crochet, and then 1 double crochet in each stitch across. So you've still got a stitch count of 8. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So this is me designing on the go, literally as I'm filming. So let's see, bring our yarn up and see if I'm happy with the width. I don't know, should I do one more row or should I just keep it that thin? I might just do one more row. So we're going to chain 1 again. Again, don't count it as a stitch, and turn. We work a double crochet straight into that first stitch. And then do 1 double crochet in each stitch across. You've still got a stitch count of 8. So 6, 7, and the last one, 8. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my yarn. I'm going to leave a little bit for sewing. Just pull that through. So we've got like this little square piece of double crochets, a little swatch. And what we're actually going to do is, I think the first thing to do is we're going to hide this tail end because it's bothering me. Just sew that in a little bit. Go back on myself. There we go, and then I can trim that down. Then that's out of the way. Let's cut through it then. Okay, so you should have something that looks like this now. Like I said, you don't have to add this if you don't want to, but if you want that more sort of 1940s style, what we're going to do is we're going to scrunch up. It might be an idea actually to tie these tail ends in and then scrunch up this bit, and then it will hide the seams. So let's do that. So this was our bottom where we began. And if you want to neaten up any gaps, you can just sew over just to hide any gaps. I'll just hide these tail ends. So there we go, there's one. And then the other one, which was where we ended our work. So we finished in that stitch, so I'm just going to sew into the next stitch just to bring that over neatly, and then it's on the inside. And just go up and down. Until you're happy. Trim the excess. Okay, so this is where we started and finished. What we might want to do is hide this part. So what we're going to do, we're going to scrunch this down, fold it down, and then we're going to wrap this around, and then we're going to use this tail end, so holding that into place, thread the tail end onto your hook. See, I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I'm designing on the hop. And then just sew these together. That's it. And you want to make sure the seam's on the inside. You can always twist it around afterwards. We're just literally just going to sew the two ends of the little square double crochet piece together. Making sure not to sew into the actual headband, just in case you want to move it up and down. Try to make it quite even. Like so. And then just hide your tail end piece. I don't know how to take that off. So when you're happy that that's sewn together, we then just need to just hide our tail ends a little bit. Whoops. And then we can trim the excess and put that aside, and then just make sure that's hidden on the inside, and then you've got almost like sort of 1940s style headband. It looks almost like a bow. So let's bring back Hilda. So I would show it on me, but I like a mess today. So we'll show it on Hilda. And there we go. There's the finished hairband. And because of the ribbing stitch, it stretches nicely. And because we haven't done chains at the beginning, it creates an equal soft edge. It's nice and soft at the top, and it's soft at the bottom. But like I said, you don't have to add this band if you don't want to, or you may want to actually crochet a bow. I'll have to do a pattern for that. Or you could just leave this off and crochet a big flower on the side and put a button in the middle, or just have fun experimenting. So there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that quick headband tutorial. I hope it's inspired you to try something. And I shall see you soon for some more crochet fun. Thanks for watching.